What is up, guys? Eric here from Real Film Reviews, bringing you another movie review, this time for the new Jake Johnson film, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is directed by Bob Persichetti, Rodney Rothman, and Peter Ramsey. It stars Shameik Moore, Jake Johnson, Liev Schreiber, Nick Cage, and John Mulaney. The film tells the story of basically the Spider-Verse, a multi-universe that exists of all of these different Spider-Men, and when Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin, opens up a collider that's there to basically rip apart the space-time continuum, and all of these other Spider-Men end up in the same timeline, they have to work together to turn this thing back on to get back into their correct universes, but also destroy the machine. But while all that is going on, we follow Miles Morales' story before he is bitten by the spider, which does eventually happen partway through the film, and then he begins to get his powers, but we also are following his dramatic arc as this kid who's put in this new fancy school where he doesn't really fit in, and it's a very coming-of-age story for his character. Now, the first thing that I feel like will stand out to most people about this film is just how good the voice work is, and all of the different actors that they got for roles. For example, Liev Schreiber plays Kingpin. I didn't know that until I saw this movie. Chris Pine plays Spider-Man. I didn't know that until I saw this movie. Lily Tomlin plays Aunt May. I didn't know this until I saw the movie. It's really crazy the sheer amount of people that they got to be in this movie to voice actors and all give really great voice performances. Specifically, I feel like it goes without saying, but Shameik Moore as Miles Morales does a fantastic job as the young web slinger as he's sort of just discovering his powers and doesn't really know how to work with them. Jake Johnson plays a very, very entertaining multiverse Spider-Man of Peter Parker who sort of ended up being kind of a loser, and he's extremely enjoyable in the role. I'm not a massive Jake Johnson fan. I actually just recently saw Some New Girl, and the show seems alright, and I've always found him to be like a somewhat entertaining actor in the other things I've seen him in, but he actually fit really, really well as sort of this washed up Peter Parker in the film, and I really enjoyed his character. And then the one that I feel like everyone loves, because how could you not love it, is Nick Cage as Spider-Noir. He's so good. I want a full Spider-Noir movie. I love Nick Cage. He's fantastic, and Spider-Noir is really cool in the movie. This film also utilizes a animation style that, to my knowledge, has never really been used in a big budget movie. I've seen it in definitely smaller, more independent animated films, but never in like a massive one like this that gets a wide release in theaters from Sony Animation, and it was really gorgeous. I really enjoy the comic book aspect of it, the way that they actually put in like sound effects and small little things like the spider sense coming out of their heads and stuff like that. It's a really, really visually enthralling type of animation, and I hope we get to see more of it in the future. I believe this film has already been greenlit with a sequel, which is great because I really enjoyed the film and I liked the animation style, so I can't wait to see more of it. Given that this film had 3 directors, you would think that maybe it was a little sloppy or felt very segmented depending on who chose to direct a scene, but it actually worked really well, and I think this is one of the best directed animated films I've probably ever seen. There's one specific shot in this film that is maybe like shot of the year in my eyes. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous shot. I think I actually have a screenshot of it that I'm going to put on screen, but it's a beautiful shot. It's very encapsulating for the film, and I absolutely loved it, and I think the movie as a whole, the action and everything was just really, really well done. The story is very interesting, and I think utilizes a lot of the little tropes that we've seen in so many superhero movies, and even specifically Spider-Man movies, by kind of cracking jokes at them and not taking itself too seriously, because it's very self-aware of what it's doing, and I think that worked very well. And along with that, I like the fact that we sort of get 2 separate plots. We get Miles Morales' personal plot with like his family and friends, but then we also get his plot as being a new Spider-Man trying to help all of these other Spider-Men with their mission that they have. The soundtrack for this film is one of the best soundtracks of the year. It has original music from Post Malone, Vince Staples, Juice WRLD, Jaden Smith. It's a fantastic soundtrack that's very fitting for the film that you're watching, and I really, really loved it. I listened to it on the drive home after seeing the movie because I liked it so much in the movie. And then the last thing that I do want to touch on before I get to my complaints with the film is make sure you stay after all of the credits. There is no mid-credits scene. There is only one all the way at the very end, but I would argue it is one of the best after credits scene that we've ever gotten for a superhero film. Now, all that being said, I do have issues with the film. My first one, they kind of go together. It's 2 big issues, and the first one is the supporting cast. This film is chock full of supporting characters, and I think my big issue with that is the fact that a lot of these characters don't get much more than just a surface level description. We learn very little about them, very little about where they came from, or what's driving them in their roles. We know all the Spider-Men get their little fun mini backstory or whatever. But the problem with that is that when they play such an important role in the film, you need to have more. They need to do more throughout the film than just kind of be a side piece for an interesting actor to voice that we get to laugh at a few jokes they crack. Because I really think that that's one of the bigger problems that I have with the film. It's very upsetting because I like so much of the supporting cast in this film, but I think so few of them have any real time to shine, and because of that, they feel very much just like extras thrown in there with a famous voice actor to be alongside Jake Johnson and Miles Morales. And it's very upsetting because a lot of them could be really cool, but I feel like they're brought into the film too late, and by the time they show up, the movie ends up trying to rush to the end, and it didn't feel like we got enough development for them. And then to go along with that, while we do get a good amount of character development for Jake Johnson's Spider-Man and Shameik Moore's Miles Morales, I feel like every other character in the film doesn't get a lot. And because of that, when they're put into the film, when emotional sequences are supposed to be happening, they never really hit very hard, because while we focus so heavily on Miles Morales for the first part of the film, by the time they all show up and emotional things begin to happen, no one really cares. I wasn't emotional at all when sad things were happening in the film because I was too invested in where everything else was supposed to be going, because there were so many new characters now. It's not to say that the side characters serve no purpose at all or that they weren't entertaining to watch on screen. It's just that I feel like this movie has a lot going on, and by the time they all show up, while they're all very enjoyable, they have fun moments, we don't get enough backstory for any of them to really care too much for them, and then the movie, once they show up, feels like it has to rush very heavily to get to the end because it spent so much time building Miles Morales' character, but then even though we had all that time building him, the movie feels like it has to push so far forward that even when the big emotional sequences do happen, they don't ever really have any punch, because we're like, oh, well, we gotta keep moving because this movie's only like an hour and 45 minutes and we're after an hour in, so even though this part's supposed to be sad, we better get going because we gotta stop that collider thing. I'm gonna give Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse a B+. It's a super fun Spider-Man movie. I really loved the animation style and the voice work. While I do think there are some issues with the characters kind of over-flooding the film, it was still an extremely fun movie. Adults and kids can enjoy it, and I honestly think it's kind of the perfect movie to come out around the holidays because any family can go see this and everyone can have a good time. Well guys, as always, I'm Eric. If you enjoyed this video, please do like, subscribe, comment down below what you thought of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, share everything we do here on Real Film Reviews, and I hope to see you guys later.